She was at the tree line when I found her. Gray morning, first frost of the season, the kind of cold that comes into the north before it announces itself, not with wind but with a sudden stillness, the air holding its breath. I had been walking the forest gate perimeter as I did most mornings, checking the boundary markers, because a border you do not personally inspect is a border you are asking to be tested, and I preferred to do my own testing. She was standing at the edge of the pines, barely upright, one hand against the nearest trunk. Not hiding. She did not have the posture of someone hiding. She was simply at the end of what her legs would carry her. My wolf saw her before I processed what I was looking at. He moved forward in my chest, not the slow, cautious movement of a creature assessing a threat, but the other kind. The kind I had not felt in a long time. The kind that means, pay attention to this. This matters. I paid attention. She was wearing the marks of a pack that had cast her out. Not the formal exile markings, those are clean, deliberate, recorded. These were the marks of the kind of departure that is not recorded, the kind where the paperwork is not the point. She was thin in the way that people are thin after weeks of eating what they can find rather than what they are given. Her cloak was not enough for the temperature. I walked to her. She looked at me. She did not run, which told me something. Either she had no run left in her, or she had decided that whatever I was not worse than the cold. Possibly both. "You're at VARMRK's Forest Gate," I said. "I know," she said. Her voice was level. Whatever she had been through, it had not taken her voice from her. "I'll move on. I only needed—" She stopped. She had been about to say she needed a moment, and her body had chosen that moment to demonstrate how thoroughly it disagreed with the word moment. I caught her before she reached the ground. My wolf was entirely calm about this, which told me everything he needed to tell me, and which I was not yet in a position to fully receive. "You won't be moving on today," I said. "Come inside." She looked up at me, dark eyes, very direct, the eyes of someone who has learned to assess situations quickly and accurately because inaccuracy has consequences. She assessed me. Whatever she found, she accepted it. "Thank you," she said. Not performed gratitude, the plain kind, from someone who means it because they know what its absence feels like. I brought her inside. Her name was Cira. She told me this on the second day, when she had slept and eaten and the color had come back to her face. She did not tell me much else, and I did not ask for much else, because I had her at a disadvantage, and pressing someone at a disadvantage is not the act of a person whose word means anything. What I knew from the marks on her and the state she was in, she had been cast out. What I knew from her eyes and the way she moved through the whole space, carefully, efficiently, without waste, was that whoever had cast her out had made a significant error in their assessment of what they were discarding. My wolf knew more than I did, as he usually does, and he was currently demonstrating his knowledge by staying as close to her as she would allow, which was closer than he had stayed to anyone in the years since I had taken VARMRK's hold and managed it alone. He was not, strictly speaking, supposed to be in the North Hall's kitchen at the hour when Cira was sorting through what remained of the autumn stores. This was not his territory in the domestic sense, but he was there, and she had accepted his presence with the pragmatic good humor of someone who was accustomed to animals and did not find them complicated. She had been there 2 days when she looked at him, specifically, at the way he was sitting exactly where he could see her regardless of which direction she turned, and said, with the dry precision of someone stating an observation, "He's very attentive." "Yes," I said. "Is he like that with everyone?" I looked at my wolf, who looked back at me with the expression of a creature that is enjoying this situation and has no intention of making it easier. "No," I said. She absorbed this and returned to the stores without pressing it further, which was also, I was beginning to notice, characteristic. She had the quality of someone who knows when they have the essential information and does not need the rest immediately. I liked that. I found I liked quite a number of things about her. In the specific, concrete way I tended to like things, not in a diffuse general admiration, but in the manner of someone who notices particular details and files them. The way she rewrapped the dried herbs someone else had wrapped poorly. The way she spoke to the hold's older wolf pairs, who had been managing themselves since my last pack healer left for the southern settlements. The way she ate with the focused appreciation of someone who has not always had enough, and has not forgotten what that was like, and therefore does not take the having of it for granted. I was noting all of this and telling myself I was simply making an accurate assessment of a guest whose situation I did not yet fully understand. My wolf thought this was very entertaining. On the 5th day, she asked to earn her keep. She said it the same way she said everything, plainly, without performance. I'm not comfortable taking hospitality without contributing to it. Tell me what the hold needs. I told her. What the hold needed was more than one person could address in a short stay, but what she could usefully address in the short term was the wolf pair's health management, the North Barns organization, and the cold storage inventory that my steward had been putting off since the previous season. She took on all three without complaint, working with the efficient unhurriedness of someone who has done a great deal of labor and has learned the difference between speed and waste. The wolves loved her immediately. Not just my wolf, the hold's full wolf pairs, the animals that had been here since before I took the hold, the ones that tended to evaluate strangers with the kind of measured suspicion that takes months to move past. They were following her around the North Barn by the end of the first morning she worked there. The eldest female, a large gray animal named by my predecessor, which I had kept because she was the wisest creature in VARMARK, and I was not going to be the person who discarded the wisest creature in VARMARK, sat beside her through the entire inventory process with the settled proprietary air of an animal that has decided this person belongs here. I watched this from the barn's upper door and said nothing, because there was nothing useful I could say. The mate mark on my wrist, the one that had been quiet and still for the 37 years of my life, was doing something I had not felt before. Not blazing, not the full recognition that pack law describes, the gold light that means faded and claimed and witnessed. Something before that, a warmth, a pressure, the sensation of something imminent. The way the air feels before lightning, the moment before the sound. I kept this to myself. She was a guest in a difficult situation, and until I understood the full shape of that situation, I was not going to add complexity to it. Then the word came from the southern border. My gate captain brought the report at midday on the 8th day. 16 wolves from the eastern pack territories at VARMARK's southern marker, requesting. The word they used was requesting passage to recover a pack member who had taken refuge within our hold without authorization. I read the report twice. 16 wolves was not a recovery party. A recovery party for one woman who had walked away from a pack was 2, maybe 3 enough to escort her, not enough to constitute a statement. 16 wolves was a message. The pack lord sending them understood that I would read it as one. I set the report down and looked at my wolf, who was currently in the doorway of the hall with the particular stillness he had adopted since CIRA's arrival. The watchful, present stillness of an animal that is tracking something important. I know, I said to him. He did not appear comforted by this. I went to find CIRA. She was in the North Barn, finishing the last section of the inventory with the focused efficiency she brought to all work. She looked up when I came through the door, read my face with her quick, accurate assessment, and set down her ledger. They've come, she said, not a question. 16, I said. Something moved in her expression, not fear exactly. The expression of someone who had known this was coming and had been calculating the distance between now and it since the morning she arrived. I'll go, she said. You shouldn't have to. What's the pack lord's claim on you? I asked. The specific legal basis. She was quiet for a moment. Then, he cast me out as barren, 18 months ago. He has since decided to offer me to a rival pack lord as a political arrangement. She said this with the flat precision of someone reporting facts they have processed past anger into simple data. I am, apparently, useful even to the pack that declared me useless. I looked at her. You don't want to go back, I said. No, she said, very clear, no elaboration. Then you won't, I said. She looked at me with those direct dark eyes. You'd stand against 16 wolves for a woman who arrived at your gate 8 days ago. I'd stand against 16 wolves for a woman who is in my hold, I said. The duration of her stay is not the relevant variable. She was quiet. My wolf had come into the barn and positioned himself at her side, the way he had positioned himself since the first morning, and she put her hand on his head without looking down, the way people do when they are accustomed to a presence and have accepted it. There's something else, she said. Yes, I said, because there was. She looked at her wrist. The mate mark was quiet, not blazing, not lit, but it was warm. She knew it was warm. I could see from her face that she knew. 8 days, she said. The duration of the stay is not the relevant variable, I said again, and this time she heard what I meant by it, which was, the duration does not matter because this was not caused by the duration. She looked at me for a long moment. What happens now? She asked. Now, I said, I go to the forest gate. I walked to the gate alone. Cira was behind me. I had not told her to stay inside, because she was not the kind of person who responded well to being told to stay inside, and because she had a right to see what happened. She stood in the doorway of the hold, above the tree line, where she could see the gate, but the 16 wolves could not easily see her. It was early afternoon. The first real snow of the season had begun in the night, not the dusting of the previous weeks, but the proper snow, the northern variety that announces that winter has arrived and will be staying. The pine trees at the gate held it on their branches. The ground was white. The 16 wolves were arrayed outside the gate in the particular formation of a party that has been told not to look threatening while looking threatening. Their lead, a large male with the careful bearing of someone who has been given instructions he finds professionally embarrassing, stepped forward as I approached. Alpha King Roan of Varmark, he said, the formal opening of a pack-to-pack address. I stopped at the gate's threshold. We are here on behalf of Pack Lord Trevic to retrieve a pack member who... She's not a pack member, I said. She was cast out 18 months ago, your pack lord's own documentation. The lead tracker had clearly been briefed on this. The circumstances of her departure are under review. In the interim, her status remains. Her status, I said, is resident of Varmark. A silence. Alpha King, with respect, a woman who arrived at your gate 8 days ago cannot be considered a resident. Walk away, I said. The lead tracker blinked. I beg your pardon. Take your 16 wolves, I said. Turn around and walk away. Tell Trevic that his claim is not recognized here, that his former pack member is under Varmark's protection, and that if he has further questions, he can put them in writing to my counsel. The lead tracker looked at me with the expression of a man who had been given precise instructions about how to handle resistance and had now encountered resistance that did not fit the briefing. He straightened. Alpha King, the pack lord's claim, is not recognized here, I said again, and stepped through the gate. I did not draw anything. I did not shift. A king meeting a recovery party in his own forest territory does not shift, because shifting is a statement of threat, and I did not need to threaten anyone. I simply stepped through the gate and into the space between the 16 wolves and my hold. The silence that followed was very complete. The 16 wolves stood still. Their formation, the threatening without threatening kind, did not move, but it also did not advance. A circle of silence, me at the center of it, snow coming down through the pines. I said nothing. Behind me, I heard Cira come down from the doorway. I heard her footsteps in the new snow. She had not stayed inside, which I had expected, and then I heard her stop, somewhere behind me, close enough. And the mate mark blazed. Not the quiet warmth of the past 8 days, the full blaze, the gold light that Pack Law has recognized since before any of the languages we currently speak were invented, the light that means faded and claimed and witnessed. It came up through both wrists simultaneously, mine in front of 16 witnesses, hers, wherever she was standing behind me, and it lit the gray afternoon the way a fire lit through glass, warm and undeniable. The lead tracker went still in a different way. He looked at my wrist. He looked at the light. 16 wolves looked at the light. The light blazed and did not dim. Light of that quality, Pack Law has always understood, does not perform. It does not respond to political arrangements or Pack Lords' preferences or recovery parties with instructions. It responds to one thing only. The lead tracker looked at me. I still said nothing. He was quiet for a long moment, working through what this meant legally, diplomatically, practically. The mate mark on a claiming alpha is the oldest form of Pack Law. It predates councils, predates written codes, predates VAERMARK itself. A woman claimed by a mated alpha cannot be transferred. The Pack Lord's political offering had just ceased to exist. As the lead tracker began. Tell DREVIC, I said, that I will be sending formal documentation within the week. He can reply in writing. The lead tracker looked at the light one more time. Then he looked at his 16 wolves. Then he nodded once, with the dignity of a professional completing an assignment that had ended differently than planned. They walked away. I stood at the forest gate until they were past the southern marker. The snow kept coming down. The gold light of the mate mark faded to its settled warmth, present, permanent, no longer needing to announce itself, because the announcement was complete. I turned around. Cira was standing in the snow 5 feet behind me, her wrist raised, looking at the warm gold light still fading on her skin. She looked up at me. "You knew it would do that," she said. "No," I said honestly. "I hoped." She looked at me for a long time, in the snow, with the pines around us and the forest gate behind me, and the particular silence of a winter forest that has just witnessed something it did not expect. "You stepped between them and me," she said, "without knowing for certain." "Yes." "Why?" I thought about this. I was not a man who had a great number of words available for the things that mattered most. I had always found that the things that mattered most resisted the kind of tidy explanation that words provided. But she had asked plainly, and she deserved a plain answer. "Because you were in my hold," I said, "and because my wolf has known since the morning you arrived, and he has not been wrong yet." She looked at her wrist. The mate mark was warm and quiet now. The gold settled to a deep amber, the color of something that has declared itself and is content to wait for the rest to follow. "I've never had anyone stand between me and anything," she said. I looked at her in the snow, thin still, but less thin than 8 days ago. The dark eyes that assessed accurately and did not perform. The woman who had rewrapped the herbs and spoken to the older wolves and sorted the stores with her efficient, unhurried patience. "Come inside," I said. "It's cold." The assembly at VARMARK was 3 days later. I held it in the great stone hall above the tree line, in the formal manner that significant announcements deserve, the full hold assembled, the wolf pairs present, the council along the east wall, my gate captain and his staff at the back. Cira stood beside me. She was wearing one of the hold's better cloaks. My steward had found it with the particular efficiency stewards display when they have already understood the situation and are adjusting their frameworks accordingly. She was not performing anything. She was simply standing in the great stone hall of Varmark, beside an alpha king who had stepped into a circle of 16 wolves for her 8 days after they met, wearing the mate mark on her wrist that pack law had declared in front of witnesses. She was being exactly what she was, the woman who had arrived at the forest gate barely upright and who had spent 8 days demonstrating, without fanfare, what she was made of. I spoke the formal naming in the old tongue. It is a short declaration in the old language, not long, not elaborate. The old tongue does not elaborate, it states. It states the mate and the mated. It states the hold and the holding. It states that what the mark has declared, the hall confirms. When I finished, I looked at her. She was looking at the hall, at the assembled hold, the wolves at their stations, the snow outside the great windows that the firelight made into a warm, dark blue. She was looking at it the way she looked at things she wanted to understand fully, with her whole attention, without rushing. The elder gray wolf, who had been sitting beside her since she arrived for the assembly, raised her head and made the sound that old pack wolves make when something long-waited has been confirmed, low, sustained, satisfied. The hall bowed. Not the political bow of people realigning with new authority. The other bow, the one that comes when a room full of people has understood something true and is acknowledging it. The wolf pairs bowed with the animals, the easy, sincere movement of creatures that have known since the morning she walked into the north barn, and they followed her like they had always known her. Cira looked at me. "The pack that cast you out," I said quietly, "received our formal documentation this morning." She absorbed this. What does it say? That Cira, formerly of the Eastern Pack territories, is now Luna of Varmark, that she is claimed and acknowledged and protected under the full standing of this hold. I paused. That Drevic's political arrangement has found other accommodation. She was quiet for a moment. How did he respond? He hasn't yet. He will. Pack lords generally do when the situation has been made clear to them. She looked at her wrist, the mate mark, settled now to its permanent warmth, the amber gold that didn't announce but simply was. 18 months ago he told me I was worthless, she said. Not with bitterness, with the simple clarity of someone stating a historical fact. He was wrong, I said. You didn't know me 18 months ago. No, I've known you 11 days, that's been enough. She looked at me. For a moment she had the expression of someone encountering something they have no existing framework for, not the hardship kind of disorientation, but the other kind, the kind that comes when you receive something you had stopped expecting, and your whole self has to reorganize around the receiving of it. Then the expression settled, and what replaced it was quieter and more certain, the look of someone who has done the reorganizing and is now simply present in the new arrangement. 11 days, she said. It was enough for the wolf, I said. It was enough for the mark. I found it was enough for me. She was quiet. I'm not a man with a great many words, I said. For things that matter, I tend not to have them. You may have noticed. I noticed, she said, with something that was the precise shape of what I had come to understand was her version of warmth, not performed, not announced, simply present. 16 wolves and a step through the gate. I noticed. Good, I said. The elder gray wolf settled her head against Cira's knee, with the satisfied permanence of a creature that has been right about something for 11 days, and is now simply inhabiting the rightness of it. Outside, the snow kept falling on Varmark, on the forest gate and the pine trees and the assembly ground, where in 3 days' time the hold's full pack would gather to acknowledge what the hall had confirmed. The letter to Drevic was already sent. His response would come or it would not, and either way it would change nothing, because pack law is older than pack lords, and the mate mark is older than pack law, and what had blazed at the forest gate in front of 16 witnesses was not a political arrangement. It was what it was, a permanent, honest, entirely without need of further announcement. Cira reached out and put her hand in mine. I held it. That was all. That was the whole of it. A man who stands between his mate and 16 wolves in the snow and says nothing, because the saying is not the thing. The standing is the thing. The choice to step through the gate is the thing. The warmth on both wrists that cannot be denied is the thing. The wolves knew before I did. The elder Gray had known in the north barn on the first morning. Cira had known, I think, earlier than she has told me, in the way that careful, honest people know things before they are ready to say them aloud. I had known at the forest gate when I stepped through it without knowing for certain what would happen, and discovered that certainty was not the requirement, the step itself was. 11 days, 16 wolves, one silence that was worth more than any declaration, and a woman in the snow looking at her wrist with the expression of someone realizing for the first time that they have been found. It was enough. It always was.